Hi, and welcome to Raw Chatter. This is season 4, folks, episode number 2, and I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood. I'm an integrative health, nutrition, fitness, and lifestyle coach, and I specialize in helping people with body image issues, disordered eating or eating disorders, alcohol dependence, and health issues that go along with struggling with those issues for sometimes decades. And I am an advocate for not separating mental health from physical health. And today, the podcast is talking about the blame game. You'll have seen the title. And this is where I kind of want to maybe rile some feathers or whatever, get people annoyed. And I'd love you to make some comments on this if I have touched a nerve or if you agree with what I'm saying. So this podcast really has come about from a podcast actually that I listened to by somebody else who I really revere in the field of mental well-being and health. He is an accountant by trade. He's not at all. He's a lawyer by trade. And he's now helping lawyers who are stressed out, burnt out, to really understand that it's so important that they take care of their mental health. But part of that means you've got to take care of your physical health, because what we still seem to not quite connect together yet is that unless you are walking around with your head tucked under your arm, you can't separate mental and emotional health from your physical health, because one affects the other. If you're not sleeping well, it's going to affect how you feel emotionally, physically, energetically. If you are eating crappy processed food that is full of sugar and salt, you are not going to be functioning as well as you could do if you were not eating so many of those foods. If you're drinking alcohol, either as a reward or as a way of winding down and relaxing, or just because it's become a habit to help you to separate work from home life, you're not going to be feeling and functioning very well, or as well as you could, on a mental and emotional level. Alcohol is a depressor. It also increases anxiety. Even though you may feel stressed and you decide to have a drink, it will help you to feel less stressed initially, but unfortunately the knock-on effects to regular drinking is much higher levels of anxiety. And this is the bit that people just don't seem to connect so well. There is so much more research coming out now. People used to think it was woo-woo, but we've known this stuff for decades, that if you look after your physical well-being, then your mental and emotional health is going to be a lot better. And notice that so far, I've not just said mental health on its own. I've always said mental and emotional, because those two things are very much intertwined and connected to your body. When we think about mental health awareness, and this is where this whole kind of conversation came up, is in that it was, how do we keep mental health awareness top of the awareness ladder? Because there's so many things that other people need to focus on. And my argument is we should just be talking about health and not separating mental health. Now, in a work environment, if you're in a company, if you're in a highly pressured job, for example, a lawyer, a solicitor, an accountant, somebody who's working within the field of healthcare within our NHS or as a consultant, then you're in a high pressured position. There's no doubt about it. Your day-to-day demands, the expectations on you from others is going to be significantly higher than for somebody like me, for example, who works for herself and sets her own hours and goals and expectations, and I can shift them as and when I need to. For some people, that is not possible. But keeping mental health top and center of awareness is not something that we're going to be able to do. What I think we need to be doing is just putting health as a priority. And for those of you who don't know and don't listen to many podcasts, and maybe you've not listened to anything by Max Lugrev or Ed Milet, or who else can I think of that Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. All of these people do some excellent podcasts, but one person I really enjoy, because he's not in the field of health and well-being, the other ones I've mentioned are, is Stephen Bartlett. And he talks about why he decided as an entrepreneur through lockdown to absolutely prioritize his health over anything else, because he realized with the whole COVID thing that those people who had not looked after their health were the ones who were getting affected worse. And that's across the board in every country. Right now, there are going to be some people going, yeah, I'm really, really healthy and I didn't have any health issues and I got COVID really, really badly. We don't know how any virus is going to affect any one person. But across the statistics that we've looked at now in the research, those people who have got not great health to start with will be and were affected much more detrimentally by the virus. And he decided, and he talks about it on a number of his podcasts, to be honest, to really up his game in terms of health, which is why he has then gone on to speak to some really interesting people around this whole topic of health. So if you haven't listened to any of the stuff that he's done, you might want to check out a podcast that he's done with Peter Attia. He's done a couple with a breathwork coach. And this is what we've got to help ourselves to recognize, that it's not up to our doctor to take care of us, or if you're in the US, your physician, right? It's your body and it's your brain and it's your mind. You inhabit it. This whole thing, not chopped off at the head, but this whole thing is what allows you to be you. It allows you to move, it allows you to speak, it allows you to eat and drink and play and laugh and sleep and all of those things and have sex and procreate and whatever, okay? It's yours. So therefore, it makes sense, doesn't it, that it's your responsibility to look after it. Now, I know there's a saying, and I've used it a lot, and a lot of people in my field tend to use it. A lot of people in the world of entrepreneurship and business building also use it. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if you're somebody who doesn't look after external things like the house that they live in, or if you have a car, your car is a bit like a rubbish dump and you don't clean it very often and you don't do oil checks regularly and tire checks, then chances are that's how you look and behave around your own health and your own body. And it goes the other way. If you are somebody who really takes pride and care in their house, then chances are you also take care of yourself and your health. Now, I'm not saying that goes across the board for everybody at all. But here's the thing. So many people say to me, oh, it's all right for those people because they can afford this, that, and the other. Health is not expensive. Looking after your mental and emotional, spiritual and physical health, and you need all four, because all four are going on internally, right? And for those of you going, I'm not spiritual, that's a load of rubbish. We all have those four elements. Whether you choose to acknowledge them or not, that is entirely up to you, but we do. And so it's kind of a bit ridiculous to not look after all of them. It's a little bit like if you've got a chair with four legs, take a dining chair, for example, right? And you only ever look after two of them, or you only ever look after one of them, which is just your physical health, or you only ever look after those two and those two, and you're never looking at all four simultaneously. You're always going to feel slightly misaligned, slightly out of balance. There's always going to be something probably going on. And if you're kind of nodding away, I'm going to invite you to start taking responsibility for your own health in all areas, okay? And it's not hard and it's not complicated. And this is the thing. The reason people don't do it is often because it's so simple. And I know that sounds like I'm contradicting, right, what you're thinking, because health really is not complicated. If you get bogged down with everything that's out there on the internet, with all the shoulds and the musts and the ought tos, in other words, all of the marketing of stuff that people want you to buy that supposedly is going to make you more healthy, then yes, you will get confused and you will hear completely contradictory things going on, and you'll probably end up doing nothing, because when we have too much choice and we feel confused or conflicted, then we just do what we've always done and we stick with what we know. That's just human beings. That is what we do. But what we've also been taught to do, and it is social conditioning, and it has come from the fact that, and I'm going to say this, and this is where I said at the start, might ruffle a few feathers, and hey ho. The world of wellness in terms of the medical profession is a business. Let that sink in. It's a business. The world of pharmacology, drugs, medication, is a business. The world of slimming and fat loss and weight reduction is a business. And they want repeat customers because, as all business owners know, it is much easier to keep serving repeat customers, and it's much cheaper to keep serving repeat customers than it is to keep attracting new ones. And so if our pharmacological world was providing us with complete solutions, we wouldn't need to keep going back for more, would we? So we wouldn't be very good customers, would we? If the slimming world products were excellent and did what they promised you, we wouldn't keep going back for more or for different ones, because we'd have got our solution and we'd be satisfied customers. But that's no good to the companies, is it? They want you to keep coming back, which means that a lot of these things are going to help you maybe in the short term deal with your symptoms, but they don't tell you the key thing, which is that while you are helping yourself to feel better symptom-wise, you're meant to be dealing with the underlying cause. And that's what medications are for. That's what temporary help with certain issues is for. It's to help you to be able to manage the symptoms so that you can actually do the work that you need to do on the root cause. And that means you, yes, you have to take responsibility for your own health. It's not up to your doctor to fix you. Can your doctor help you and explain to you what you can do to help yourself in terms of causation and how to make sure that you're helping your body to heal itself whilst giving you something to help you with the symptoms? Yes, absolutely. And this is why I'm not anti-medication. It has its place. But medication is there to help you to be able to do what you need to do to deal with the cause of those symptoms, and not just to go, oh, great, I've got some pills. I haven't got my headache anymore. I haven't got my knee pain anymore. I haven't got this anymore. I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing. It's worked. No, because I can tell you what will happen. You will get the same symptoms coming back, but slightly worse than they were the first time. Or you will get different symptoms that you may think are not related to the same problem, but actually they are. And then we have fun with the whole doctors and consultations and specialists, because you get sent over here for this issue and over there for that issue and over here for this issue. And actually all of those issues stem from the same kind of stuff. And this is why it's so important that we learn to take responsibility for ourselves. And if you are a parent, and I spoke to parents on the last one as well, and I'm not having a go at parents, but if we want our kids to actually be able to take care of themselves and not to be reliant on doctors and external people who aren't necessarily that clued up and up to date with current research. Just as an aside, folks, your GP is about 17 years behind current research as it stands at the moment. Some, depending on when they trained, some may be more, some maybe slightly less. But in general, what is being researched now by people like me in the world of functional nutrition, in the world of integrative health, people who are reading current research papers and also are working with clients and finding out what is going on at grassroots level, right? We are knowing this stuff. This might trickle through to your GP in about 17 years. As an example, I've been talking about gut health, and I knew that my gut function was pretty shot. And I also knew that there was some issues going on with food sensitivity as to, in hindsight, why I was struggling with bulimia and alcohol, why I became addicted and dependent on those two things. And I was adamant that there was something physiological going on with those things which are classed as mental health diseases or issues, right? And I've always said, no, not categorically just mental health, because there is a physiological issue going on, whether it's to do with your receptors that are not working as they should, whether it's to do with your digestive system, digestive tract not being able to break down, assimilate and utilize nutrients, whatever is the cause, but there is something. And I was quite correct, and I was endeavoring to find out about this, and it wasn't easy back then in 2006 to try and find this information out. And I was looking at gut health back then, 2006. Now, in 2013, the mental health side of the medical profession did concede that there was a link to gut and brain health. In other words, the gut-brain connection, which is what I'd already been looking at. Now, I said 2006 I was looking. It wasn't until 2013, right, that the medical profession and the mental health profession conceded that there was a connection. The crazy thing is, we know this. You only have to go back to Hippocrates, who said very, very clearly, all disease begins in the gut. Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual starts in the gut. And I'm afraid to say, well, I'm not afraid to say, I'm delighted to say he was absolutely right. What I'm afraid to say is that we've dismissed it for decades, to our detriment. And so it's now 2023, right? So another 10 years since that happened, that they decided that, yes, the gut-brain connection was a thing and mental health and physical health were connected, right? So we're now 10 years later, and more and more people are talking about gut health and the gut microbiome, which is fantastic. But still 10 years and not a lot's changed in the way that people are looking at mental health and looking at physiology. If you were going to a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist and they're saying to you, have you had a stool test done? Do you know how your gut is functioning? What is going on? Do you have any food intolerances? What's your diet like? If they're asking you those questions, hooray, fantastic, right? They can help you to start to take responsibility for making the changes that matter. And I champion that. But I don't know many out there who are doing it. There are some, there absolutely are, right? And there are some people like Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who was and is still a practicing general practitioner, GP, but he also decided to fund himself to become trained in functional medicine because he realized there was so much that was disconnected with the whole allopathic medical model, and he didn't like it. He didn't like the fact that his patients were not getting the results that he thought they would from the protocol he'd been taught as a medical student. When he went to do functional and integrative health, and he studied both, he realized why. Because there's so much that we're not telling our patients. And he's written 2 books, 3 books, maybe now. The point is, we are trying to get the message out there, but we need parents to start taking responsibility for their own health and not rushing off to the doctor for every little thing, so that our children learn that it is up to them to take care of themselves. Now, is it like this sometimes when you're not quite sure what is going on? Yeah, absolutely it is, because we don't want to never go to a medical professional because we might miss something really important. But on the other hand, what we've got to take on board is that your medical professional, as I said, is usually 17 years behind. And there's a lot of stuff that they don't know that actually is available and can help you out there. So taking responsibility for our own health is really simple stuff, right? It's making sure that you prioritize health first and foremost. And what is health? What constitutes good health? How do we look after ourselves? How do we take responsibility? So I'm going to give you a little checklist, right? Sleep, number 1. That is the first thing that we need to look at, is priority. Posture. Okay, and I've just realized if you watch on YouTube, it probably looks like I've got no top on. I have, right? It's sunny when I'm recording this, so I've got my bikini top on and shorts, which is why it looks like I'm wearing nothing. And for those of you who are just listening, obviously you don't know, which is fine. I hope you're not sitting there picturing me now with no clothes on at all. And if you are, well, hey ho, enjoy it. So we need to prioritize sleep. Next, we need to prioritize posture, because we need to prioritize breathing. And those three, I don't want you to think about them as being sleep, breathing, posture. I want you to think this: sleep, breathing, posture. They're really, really important. Sleep affects everything: how we think, how we feel, how we function, right? And if you think about it, sleep was used, and it still is, I think, as a form of torture, sleep deprivation, because if you deprive somebody for long enough of sleep, then their cognitive function, their brain function, and their mind just do not work correctly, and they would basically say whatever they need to say to be able to just get some sleep, even if it doesn't make sense and if it's not true. So sleep is crucial, but your breathing and your posture equally as important, and up there along that same timeline, if you like, is hydration. And one isn't more important than the other. How much you sleep, how much water you're getting into your body, and your posture and how well you are breathing are like the most important things when it comes to health. Now, some of you might have expected me to say it's nutrition and it's movement. They come next. Right? They absolutely do, but not before sleep, hydration, posture, and your breathing. And by good posture, I mean we need to be sitting upright. So I've got my screen so that it's up at eye level, so I'm not having to look down and like this. Because as soon as I collapse through, right, my digestive organs are all squashing up together, which means it's not great for my whole digestive system to be able to function so well. It means that it's not great for my back either. It also means that I can't allow my rib cage to fully expand, which means I'm probably going to be breathing from my chest. And if I'm breathing from my chest, I am not going to be taking in anything like as much oxygen as I could do if I was breathing deep down and allowing my lungs to expand, and allowing, most importantly, my diaphragm to move. And it's the diaphragm when it comes, and the movement of the diaphragm when it comes to breathing, that is the important thing. Your lungs, if you like, are a little bit like deflated balloons, right? And it is the diaphragm's movement that inflates and deflates those balloons. So if we're all hunched up and crunched up a lot of the time, either over our phones with them like this, or at our desk on a computer, you can see that we're probably not going to get as much oxygen into our system, and our diaphragm's just not able to move properly. And these are simple things, right? These don't cost money. When people say to me, oh, it's really expensive to be healthy, it's not. Sleep is free, right? Oxygen at the moment, as far as we know, is free. Yes. And for a lot of us, water is free, although I have to say the quality of it leaves a lot to be desired. And I personally do not drink tap water because there's all sorts of stuff in it. But that's a whole other podcast. The point is, those three things are doable and they're important. Staying in a routine, right? And if you've had kids, you remember when they were little, you were really encouraged to get them into a sleep routine as soon as you could, get them into an eating routine as soon as you could. For whatever reason, we decide to change that when we're adults, I don't know. But we need to keep doing that because it's helpful. Our body works with a natural internal body clock, and it likes things to be in rhythm. So if we can go to bed and get up at the same time, if we can get around about the same amount of sleep on most nights, right? Don't get kind of bogged down with, oh my God, I didn't sleep my usual hours, I'm going to feel terrible. No, you'll only feel terrible if you tell yourself you're going to feel terrible. One night of broken sleep, it will not make a massive amount of difference. And again, sleep could be a whole other podcast, not going to go down there. The point is sleep, posture, breathing, hydration, the foundations, the principles, the basics of good health, right? All free, not hard to do. And this is the problem. Because they're free and they're not hard to do, people don't prioritize them. So I am inviting you, this is my invitation to you, to take priority of your health, but above all, take responsibility for it. Because if you just work on those things and getting outside in the morning, if you can, in the sunlight, in the fresh air, ideally with bare feet, ground yourself and just look up to the sky. Even if it's cloudy, so that you can start to get the melatonin production going for a good night's sleep, because a good night's sleep starts with a good morning. And if you can get up at the same time every morning and make it a priority to get outside and get some fresh air and some sun in the back of your eye, as early as you possibly can when the sun is out, and even if it's not, as I say, it will come through the clouds, you are doing yourself a massive, massive favor, and a lot more than many people are doing. And just those things on their own could make a big difference before we even go down the road of keeping your body moving as frequently as you can, because your body's designed to move, not to sit for hours. This whole sitting is the new smoking. It's a great kind of headlight. It's not true, right? But sitting for any length of time, and if you do it, you'll know your body doesn't like it. It tells you. You get back pain, you get hip pain, right? It doesn't feel great. Okay. Alternatively, standing for a crazy length of time is equally not as good for us. It's not brilliant either. So we need to have a combination of the two, and making your body sweat. Yeah, and I know there are a lot of people who don't like sweating, and they don't like sweating through vigorous exercise, and I get it. My daughter's one of them, right? So, however, if we can let our bodies sweat at some point, at least once a week, it really helps to get rid of some of the toxins that our body does need to get rid of and eliminate. And the skin is a really huge organ. It's the biggest one we've got. So ideally we want to try and get rid of a load of toxins and eliminate at least once a week if you can. If you are a person who does love vigorous exercises and likes sweating, then you've got no problem. And then when it comes to food, right, it's just keep it simple. So what should I eat? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And they're going into the minutiae of certain specific foods. Keep it really, really simple. Does it grow on a tree? Is it a plant? Does it grow under the ground in the soil? Is it from an animal? Does it come from the sea? Right? In other words, is it natural? Because if it is, go for it. Okay. If it comes in a packet and it doesn't look anything like the original article, if it's packed full of sugar and salt and flavorings, then you look on the back at the ingredients and there's things in there that you can't even pronounce, or it looks like a shopping list, then you're probably not going to feel great if a lot of your food is that. If you're living on takeaways and processed foods more than you are living on natural foods, your mental health is not going to be great. Your sleep's probably not going to be great. Your elimination's probably not going to be great. Your skin's probably not going to be great. And just in general, your energy won't be good. Now, we all eat. So you're not going to be spending any more money. And this idea that healthy foods are more expensive, if you learn how to cook and make foods go a long way, that is not the case. Now, I'm going to caveat that because I do know that in some areas of America particularly, it is very difficult to get fresh natural foods. However, freezer foods are brilliant, okay? And I have no problems with frozen food as long as you look at the ingredients, particularly when it comes to vegetables, meat, fish, that kind of stuff, because it's frozen pretty damn sharpish. And often your frozen stuff is fresher than your supposedly fresh stuff. So frozen food and tinned stuff as well, as long as it's not packed in sugar and a load of salty brine. If it's just packed in spring water or natural olive oil, fantastic. And these things, you can mix them together with cheaper foods like pulses and grains and quinoa and things that will bulk stuff out and will last a long time. You would buy a packet and it'll probably keep you going, depending on how many's in the family, for a reasonable length of time. My point being, health is not hard and it's not expensive. There's a lot of stuff that you can do if you just take responsibility for it. And that's the tricky bit. We're not playing the blame game. It is not up to your GP to fix you because you can't be asked to take care of yourself. It's not time consuming. What you will need to do to begin with is to start changing some habits and start to create some routines to make it easier for you to do. Things like setting an alarm on your phone every 2 hours to remind you to drink and to remind you to get up out of your chair and move your arse. Yeah, not difficult. Same alarm, two different things. It's called habit stacking, right? You do one thing, do another, do another. and start to implement these things. Just try it. And I'm just going to set you a bit of a challenge. Okay. Just give it 7 days. Give it 7 days of going to bed and getting up at the same time, staying hydrated, getting out in the morning, grounding yourself, looking up into the sky, moving your body every couple of hours and having a drink. Just that, just try it and see how you feel. Because folks, if we don't start taking more responsibility for our own health, we are going to end up with generations and generations who don't know how. We're going to end up with generations of drug addicts, obese people who have got diabetes, heart problems, blood pressure problems, kidney problems, gallbladder problems, pancreas problems, dementia, Alzheimer's, and cancers. And all of these things are preventable if we start to take care of ourselves at a very young age and take responsibility for our own health. So let's embrace getting rid of blame culture and let's start taking responsibility for our health ourselves. I am Vicky Midwood. This is Raw Chatter. I am going to shut up now. I hope that you have got something from this. And if you do have any questions about how to implement this stuff and just exactly what you need to do, get in touch with me. I've got a wonderful course available. It's a do-it-yourself or it's a do-it-with-me course. It's called The Foundations of Fitness for Life. And that is exactly all of that stuff. So on that note, I'm going to wish you a great day. Whatever you're up to, take care of yourself. You only have one body as far as we know. Take care of it because it is taking care of you. Until next time, be good. And if you can't be good, enjoy yourself.